joining us now is Jozef Hrabina, geopolitical risk advisor at the Geopolitics Agency. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good day.
So what would you say are the benefits of this visit? It has taken a while to actually materialize, so to say, given that most leaders had already traveled to Kyiv at least once in the wake of the Russian invasion. And Viktor Orbán isn't really bringing anything to the table that could be acceptable to the Ukrainians. I mean, the response was diplomatic, as it was bound to be. But do you think that this was a serious proposal of any kind, or was it just about going through the motions, really?
Well, I believe that Viktor Orbán wanted to send some signal about the Hungarian European Union presidency that is going to last for the next 6 months. It was his first visit as the president of the European Union, as Hungary as a presiding country, and that sent some signal. I don't think that signal would actually result in any kind of meaningful settlement of the ongoing war in Ukraine. I don't think neither of the parties is ready for serious talks, and both parties have pretty much demonstrated this unwillingness or unreadiness, I would say. And Viktor Orbán probably just wanted to send a signal. He wanted to demonstrate that there is a part of Europe that is not supporting Ukraine, or is not supporting the war in Ukraine, to be more specific. And also he wanted to probably raise stakes in his recently announced Patriots for Europe platform within the European Parliament. So that's another move that could be read from this tour.
But now, speaking of signals, don't you think that now Viktor Orbán might be sending mixed signals? Because, of course, one thing is that he decided finally to come to Kyiv, which is a sign of solidarity, which the rest of European leaders have shown since the very beginning of full-scale Russian invasion. Now, on the other hand, Orbán proposed a ceasefire during the meeting with Zelensky, advocating to halt all the hostilities, to create a window for peace talks, which is, in fact, in vast contrast to what the vast majority of European leaders say, that now negotiations and peace talks in that way and a ceasefire is not on the agenda. So what do you think of this quizzical behavior? I
would say it fits very well into his narrative. He had to travel. It's his duty to travel there if he wants to make the conflict settlement his priority during the Hungarian presidency, which I believe this is largely a marketing thing, because even if Hungary will push and will create some fraction that will push for some conflict settlement on the ground, I don't think they're in any position to dictate to Ukrainians or any of its powerful allies what are the terms of ending the conflict, and proposing ceasefire in order to hasten the peace negotiations was just a marketing tool. There's no way Ukraine can unilaterally declare peace ceasefire.
Do you think that this is a reflection of a bigger problem? Because commentators often say that European nations, Ukraine's allies in general, they don't really know what does it mean to win a war. They are still at odds when it comes to the ultimate objectives regarding victory. But do we, as the international community, know what does it mean to propose and then maintain a ceasefire? Because this seems to be like the sort of keyword that everyone is accepting. Yeah, I mean, a ceasefire would be a good thing, maybe. But this goes right against certain interests of Ukrainians in particular, because a ceasefire in these territories without the precondition of Russians withdrawing would mean more war crimes, would mean the persecution of the population that is still there. So should we perhaps as the international community clarify to ourselves what does it mean to suspend hostilities and what the consequences are going to be?
Absolutely. But also, I don't think it's realistic from Russians to expect from Russians to withdraw their forces. They're not going to withdraw their forces. As well as, we've heard from Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs, that peace negotiations should be held from the position of power. Of course, they should, but the position of power is held by the country that is winning the war, and it's not Ukraine right now. And there are no indications that Ukraine is going to win this war anytime soon. So we should be real with each other. We should really get real right now, because talking about victory is actually undermining our credibility, because it is in sharp contrast with the reality on the ground. On the other hand, ceasefire, this can have milder conditions, but still no withdrawal of Russian troops. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that Russians are committing war crimes in the occupied territories as we speak. So nothing is going to prevent them to do it now, and nothing is going to prevent them to do it in the future.
Do you think, though, that in basically dismissing the idea of a military victory, we're actually undermining ourselves and our ability to help Ukraine? I mean, the situation is dynamic. We can see that Crimea, for example, is being subjected to a barrage of missiles. Russia is losing expensive air defense systems, perhaps not by the dozens, but huge quantities are basically being turned into scrap metal. They have withdrawn their naval assets from there because, once again, it was untenable. Do you think that basically, maintaining military aid to make it untenable for Russia to keep its troops would perhaps make Putin reconsider the idea of withdrawing them, at least partially?
A Black Sea theater is a different story than the ground operations. That's very important to note. The Black Sea theater as such was a great success, and it still is a great success for Ukrainian Navy. And Ukraine has been able to push back super expensive and modern Russian Black Sea fleet away from its ports, even to an extent when Odessa port could restart its operations, which is a tremendous success. And when we take in consideration that they managed to do it with relatively cheap weapons such as naval drones or aerial drones, this is something amazing. But the battlefield in Ukraine as such is way more complicated. Ukraine doesn't have enough men, and the recent wave of mobilization is showing that there are not many men. The best men Ukraine had, I will put it very, very plainly, the best men Ukraine had, and the best men that they were, those who were willing to die for their cause, they're already either dead or exhausted on the front line. The new men that are coming in, they're not as willing, and they're not as ready for what's going to come. While Russia has overhead advantage, it is much more efficient in producing military stockpiles, etc., etc. Therefore, I don't think there's such Western aid that could help Ukraine to prevail in this war. It's A, B, or even only if we would really put the boots on the ground solution, or really, some extreme solutions nobody is now willing to do. And B, Ukraine doesn't have enough men.
So the vicissitudes of attritional warfare that you're talking about, I mean, they could also go either way. Russia also has certain limits, although it is probably not really willing to admit that they exist. Jozef Hrabina was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you for having me.